In motion is Sewell. Goff to throw. Wants to throw it to Sewell. He caught it. Boy, Sewell on a first down. Oh, yes. The big man dives down to the 31-yard line. Oh, that is beautiful.
Welcome to the Twentyman in the Huddle podcast. I have taken the podcast on the road to Mobile, Alabama for their Senior Bowl, and I am very happy to be joined by Shaun Dion Hamilton, former Lions linebacker, current defensive assistant, and down here, you're the defensive backs coach for the American team?
Yes, sir.
So let's start with this. Like, you're an Alabama kid. You were a 3-year starter at Alabama. You grew up in Alabama. Just how much was the Senior Bowl part of kind of the culture here in Alabama, with it being here for so many years? And how much as a kid did you dream about, playing in this game?
I was super excited. It's a huge deal being here from the state of Alabama. I know Coach Saban always makes a guest appearance here one of the days at practice, and it's just one of those things where a lot of the in-state guys who are normally your seniors, like, this is a box that they like to check off the list. The next step, getting to the NFL. So it was always a big deal. Getting invited back when I was a senior was a huge deal. So now being on the other side, being a coach, it's a tremendous deal, for me, helping other young guys, trying to get to the NFL.
And unfortunately, you were hurt late in your senior year at Alabama, hurt your knee in LSU, so you didn't get a chance to play. But how surreal is it now, a few years later, you're back here, you're coaching, and like you said, now you're helping some of these young guys kind of achieve their dreams that you were able to achieve yourself.
Oh, it's awesome, man. Like I said, didn't get a chance to play in this game, but I remember going through the interview process and kind of being nervous, not knowing what to expect and things like that. And now here I am, coaching the corners up, getting these guys ready for the next level. So the whole experience has been great, and I've just been enjoying myself, networking with coaches and learning things from them.
You made the transition from a player to a coach after training camp this year. Just how long had that been on your mind, and what went behind that transition to the coaching staff side of it?
I think it had been on my mind probably by the time the middle of camp. I kind of started seeing how things were funneling out for me with making the team, and I started talking to AG. Had been told me that he could see how I go about business, that I was going to be a great coach one day. Something that I ran from it from a long time, because all of my coaches have always told me, this is what you're going to do. I know how you're wired. So talking to AG, talking to guys like Shep, then, I get released or whatever, and, talk to Dan and talk to Brad, and, kudos to those guys for, giving me the opportunity to come back and join the staff. So, I mean, we got a great staff, and, it's a special group, man. That's all I can say. I enjoy coming to work every single day.
How much easier, Shaun, was that transition? Because there are so many coaches on this staff who were former players, who were in the same situation that you were. You talked about AG and Dan and Deuce and Randall L., and the list goes on and on. And
Sure.
How much easier did it make that transition? Because you have a ton of guys on that staff that are in the same spot you are.
Right. It makes it so easy, man. Everybody can relate. I think the wisdom and the knowledge that they even share with me, just with the transition, just grooming me up, man, and just preparing me, for this journey, like, I don't take it lightly. Those guys treat me, just like another little brother, and will showing me the ropes, and, I greatly appreciate that.
Defensive assistant, I think a lot of people out there maybe, hey, what does a defensive assistant do? What are your weekly responsibilities? I'm just maybe go into a little bit about what you started doing, how that evolved, just kind of what your responsibilities were on a week-to-week basis on that coaching staff.
So some of my responsibilities would be, breaking down the film on the opponents. During the games, I'm on the sideline. Any way that I can assist AG or Shep, rather than if that's AG knowing what calls he's called, keeping up with the reps, organizing the practice scripts, making sure that the presentations and things like that are good for the players when they come in.
And now you've made the transition this week to having your own room, right? Working with the defensive backs, specifically the corners. And I know we talked a little bit after practice, and you have an aspiration to be a defensive coordinator, be a head coach, someday in this league. So how important has this week been for you to get your own room and expand your coaching toolbox per se to be able to set up and coach a specific group for all week?
It's extremely important and extremely excited. Was super stoked for the opportunity, just to be hands-on with the guys and be able to go out there and coach ball and, stand in front of the room, and run the room because, I'm a strong believer that the players are a reflection of their coach. So it's been great. Like I said, I got those aspirations to be coordinators and head coaches. And, I've always known exactly, what players are supposed to do, like on the back end. But now, getting the tools, to for their technique purposes and things like that, I know it will only help me further on down the road in my coaching journey.
And just how beneficial has this been from a Detroit Lions perspective as well? Obviously, you guys are looking to always improve the talent on your football team, defensively especially. Brad Holmes came out after the season and said, hey, we're going to spend some resources there. And for you to be able to spend time with these guys specifically, not just see what they do on the field, but how are they in the meeting room? How do they handle information? Can they translate what they learn in the meeting room to the field? Just how important has that been in you guys' now evaluation of some of these defensive backs here in Mobile?
Oh, it's been great, man. Like I said, to be hands-on with these guys, to see what type of learner they are. Just the whole evaluation process, seeing how guys can retain information from the meetings to the practice field in this short amount of time. It's been great. I'm enjoying it, seeing the guys play with great effort, seeing how the guys respond when they're tired or when, maybe a guy catches the ball and seeing how they respond, So it's been great, and I've been enjoying it, man.
I know it's early in the week. I don't want to put you on the spot. Any guys maybe stand out a little bit? Is it too early for that yet? Do you not want to put anybody on the spot?
I can say I got a great group of corners. They were a little bit tired today. I mean, a lot of guys been
they haven't played football in a minute, right?
They haven't played football in a minute, and guys been training for the come out. So I probably have a couple of guys, like I say, after tomorrow's practice. So
what is it like working for AG? What's it like working for Dan?
Oh man, those two guys, man, it's awesome. Those guys love ball. They're grinders. Like just being former players, man. Like it's a special connection that we have. They come to work every single day, have their hard hat on. All about the players. It's great. I enjoy working for them.
When you look at the evaluation of the defense, is it hard because you look at the overall numbers, and obviously, Shaun, they weren't where you guys want them to be, but you look at during the last 10 games, that 8-2 run. I mean, the 20.1 points allowed per game, that was 11th best in the league. So how do you, when you're doing the evaluation, differentiate between that rough start and how much better the defense played in the second half, and how much do you have to take that into the evaluation, kind of the big picture of which guys you want back, how much you want to rerun this, what guys you need to bring in? Is that the hard part of the evaluation process?
It kind of sort of is. At the same time, that's what make coaches, that's what makes us have jobs. That's up to us, to understand and see what worked for us, going into next season, momentum-wise, for us to keep self-evaluating, weed out the things that we like and we don't like. So I know AG, I know Dan, we have a great plan moving forward to keep building on this momentum like we finished the season.
How much fun are you having this week?
I'm having super fun, man. Being around ball, I love this game of football. It's given me so much opportunity, and now just being able to coach and give back to, the next rising stars. It's awesome.
Well, Shaun, have a terrific week here. We'll be watching along the way. It's going to be a fun off season, right? I mean, obviously the goal was the playoffs, was the division, didn't quite get there, but 9-8, you guys were playing some of the best football of any team in the NFL. It's got to be a fun off season. You guys have some draft capital. You guys have draft cap space. So this is going to be a fun off season, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be super exciting. It's going to be important, that we just keep on working hard and just keep building on this momentum, and just remember, some of the things and the tools that we did later on in the season. Make sure we carry that over to 2023.
He is Shaun Dion Hamilton. Thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Welcome back to the Twentyman in the Huddle podcast, and I welcome in Ray Agnew, assistant GM for the Detroit Lions. Thanks for joining me, Ray.
Oh,
Appreciate
man,
you.
thanks for having me, man. Love talking ball, so it's all good.
Well, let's start with this. So does this bring back some memories? I don't know if people out there might remember, but you played in the Senior Bowl game back in the day.
Some great memories. I met some great friends while I was here that we're still friends to this day that I played in the Senior Bowl with. I was having a pretty good week, man. I think the offensive lineman got a little mad at me. One of them dove at my knee and took my knee out, so I got hurt in the game. I didn't actually play in the game, but it was like the second or third day of practice. And I was a little angry about it.
I bet.
I said some choice words that I probably shouldn't repeat on.
But was it a good experience though? And what's the benefit for now in your position this week of evaluating guys? Because it's not like the combine where you're watching guys run in shorts, and I mean guys are getting after it. They're playing football, and you're getting to evaluate guys in pads playing football. Is that the biggest benefit of this week and this event?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, for me, it was a chance when I came here to prove that I could play against the best of all, and so to see which guys will compete. The two things you want to see is the guys that compete, in times like this when it's time to stand up and compete, and also how quick they learn football.
Yeah.
Those are the two things you want to see. And you get to see all that because this is the best of the best, and you see those guys compete. Some guys rise to the top, some guys go the other way.
And I think you make an interesting point there, too, is the part off the field, right? Everybody can evaluate what a guy does off the field, but you guys got a chance to coach this last year, and Shaun Dion Hamilton is here coaching the DBs, but that part of it, right? How does a guy retain information? Can he take what he learns in the classroom and take it to the practice field? How quickly does he develop within the scheme or understand schema? Are those some of the things that are the important part of the behind-the-scenes stuff that you can glean from this week?
Absolutely, man. Quick he learn, how does he retain, how does he take hard coaching?
Yeah.
Because some of these guys, they've been the best of the best on their team since high school, and nobody's probably ever yelled at them. And also, man, just the simple part is running the drill. When the coach running the drill, do he have to keep telling this guy the same thing over and over again, or does he pick it up right away?
What position groups maybe were you interested in evaluating that maybe you thought were kind of strong down here? When you decided to come down?
For me, I wouldn't say it's a position group. It's certain guys that I want to see. I want to see what they look like live, and then I want to see how they compete. Against top talent.
You and Brad did the co-press conference after the training camp after the roster was cut, and I'm just curious your relationship with Brad. You guys go back a while now. You were with the LA Rams. He brought you over to be his assistant general manager. It seems like you guys are just in lockstep together. And what is it like working under Brad? And just talk about that relationship a little bit, how important it is for the GM, the assistant GM, to have a good relationship like it seems like you guys do.
Well, first of all, it's been great. I feel like, it's going to sound crazy, but I feel like a big brother, watching your little brother grow up and become, this great person and great man and, great at what he does. I watched him when he came in, and he had passion and drive. You saw that right away. And you saw the thing that stands out to me, Brad, is the smarts. And that mind works in some great ways, and I've enjoyed watching the progress and watching him grow. And we grew up around the same people as far as scouting, and we think alike, and what we do, we think alike, and it's just a good match. It works.
And just speak to your role a little bit more, assistant GM. You obviously have aspirations to be a GM yourself one day. And I'm just curious, in that role, what's your biggest responsibility as Brad's right-hand man there?
Well, to help, I would say the biggest responsibility is to help making sound decisions and to take weight off his back. Do things that he shouldn't have to do. I take care of those things. Just being a friend and being whatever he needs me to be.
Ray, you guys have had so much success the last 2 years in drafting and building this football team. Do you feel like where you guys were when you started and where you are now heading into your third season, that you're maybe a little bit ahead of the game where you thought you'd be just because of this so much success you guys have had drafting the last 2 years? I mean, look at guys like Penn and Saint and Aiden from last year. I mean, the list goes on and on. Malcolm, Kirby, who looks like he's a guy. Do you feel like you've kind of sped that up a little bit with the success that you guys have had the last 2 years and how quickly those guys have become maybe core pieces?
Yeah, I will say, I think, the last couple of drafts, we've drafted some guys that love football and they love playing the game, and they've done a great job, and they're becoming the nucleus of our team. To say we're ahead of the game would mean we still playing, or we played in the playoffs. So I'm not going to say we're ahead of the game. We're on track where we want to be, but I wouldn't say we're ahead of the game because, ahead of the game is being in the dance, in my opinion.
You have 5 picks in the top 81 this offseason. You've got some cap space to do some things maybe you didn't your first couple years here. Just how exciting is that part of it, knowing that you can get so much better this offseason than even you were at the end of the season when you guys were playing so well?
And we're very excited, and that's why it's so important to do the work to make sure you get the right people, the right players and the right people put in our building. We know we believe in our coaching staff tremendously. They're going to coach. They're going to coach him up and get him ready to play. We got to give them what they need to get over that.
And that seems like it's a good point by you, because that's such an important relationship, isn't it? Front office to coaching staff. And it seems like with you and Brad and you guys' department and Dan and that coaching staff, it really is on lockstep, isn't it? And how important is that in the overall process of building and developing a good football team?
Very important. I don't think you're going to be successful if those two don't get along. It's just not going to happen. I've been a part of situations where it was like that, and it just wasn't good for nobody. But to have those guys, and it's crazy because it seems like we all think alike and we all on the same page. We want the same type of player thing. So it's awesome.
When you evaluate the 2022 Detroit Lions, obviously you guys didn't get off to the start you wanted, right? You're 1-6, but you look at the way you finished, 8-2, and even when you look at the defensive numbers, you finished 32nd in the NFL in total defense. But if you look at the last 10 games, allowing 20.1 points per game, I think that was 11th best in the league, Ray. So how hard is it to evaluate the totality of the season and the numbers, but then to evaluate also how much better you guys were playing the second half of the season? How do you evaluate that? Do you have to take the totality, or boy, we were playing much better defensively in the second half, so maybe we bring back some of these guys and keep this rolling because we were playing so much better. We were so improved. I guess, what's the process there? Do you have to compartmentalize it, or do you have to look at the whole thing? I guess, what's the process there?
To me, and this going to sound crazy, but it's kind of an easy process to me. You're always trying to get better. So there's nothing personal against any player. But you're always trying to get better, so we're looking for better at all positions.
You look at this rookie class, this last rookie class, everybody but probably Chase Lucas, really played an important role, and Chase did some good things on special teams, and looks like he's an ascending player as well. How is that going to benefit you guys with so many of those young guys playing big roles? And as well as I do that usually a player's biggest leap is from year 1 to year 2. When you got so many guys that played so much and had such big roles as a rookie, how much better can those guys be? How much better of a football team can you guys be with so many young players playing so many big minutes?
It's a great question, but it's exciting, first of all. Let me say that. It's exciting to watch those kids play, and you watch them do the things you thought they could do, and they're doing it already. James Houston, from a certain Aiden, all those guys that played well last year, Kirby, it's exciting to see that, man. And like I was saying earlier, those guys are becoming nucleus. They're good players. Panay's a stud. Saint's a stud, and then, the young Jameson, when he gets rolling. So it's exciting, it's exciting times to be with the Detroit Lions.
I'm glad you brought up JMO, because I was going to bring it up. Just Jared talked about how you can just see that this guy's got it, whatever it is, and that he can be a number 1 type guy. You guys have the same assessment of him. Can he be a legit number 1? And why do you say that? Because I see the smile. You're you're obviously excited about him.
Me, get the athletic ability, what he could do, run, and all that. Everybody can see that.
Yeah.
That this kid got some stuff in him that, there ain't a lot of receivers got. He's, the big term, dog.
Yeah.
Like Saint. And
Yeah.
they just got that innate toughness in him. And his ability, it is what it is.
Right.
Everybody can see that, but I think it's that extra stuff that he has. It's going to make him stretch.
Not many wide receivers, number 12 picks, want to go ahead and just roll on that punt team and be the gunner, right? Is that what you're referring to?
Exactly.
Like he doesn't matter. He just wants to be on the field play.
And and I lived in St. Louis for a long time, and he's a St. Louis kid, and those kids there, man, they're just tough kids, man. They are innately tough kids. I watched a lot of high school and little league football with my kids coming up the St. Louis. Those are some tough kids, man. And when you get one, you got a tough one.
Yeah.
So he's a tough kid, man. So.
I want to ask you about James Houston too, a guy that kind of had to wait to get a spot for him. Wait till Charles, and you dealt some injuries with Charles and Julian, and that kind of gave him his opportunity. But I know you guys were seeing it before that on the practice field. So what about his ability? And obviously the numbers are what they are: 8 sacks in 7 games. I mean, really impressive. But what is it about his skill set that is unique and that you guys found pretty attractive and wanted to give him a chance?
He's a long guy. He has length, his arms really long. And it's really like the juice. I mean, he can bend off the corner, man, which most great pass rushers can do, and you can see that on tape at Jackson State. He played a lot of stack linebacker at Florida. So at Jackson State, they put him on the line, let him rush, and he was able to see that. So
when you look at some of the guys down here this week, the interior offensive linemen, maybe just speaking to some positions of need for you guys or some positions that you might be looking for, defensive line, how much is versatility important for you guys? Because when you talk about a guy like James who played stacked and then could go on the edge, Aiden, 3 interceptions, can drop, do some things, play inside on your NASCAR package and do some of those things too. How much is versatility a big part of what you guys want to have in terms of collective players on your football team?
You're absolutely. Versatility is also, priority. Because if you just in one position, you got to be special.
Yeah.
You got to be very special. But especially up front, O-line, D-line, you want those guys to be able to play, multiple spots.
The more you can do, right?
Yep.
Well, let's finish up with this one. And again, I'm speaking with Ray Agnew, the assistant general manager for the Detroit Lions. Big week down here at the Senior Bowl. Ray, 9-8. Just missed the playoffs. You were that close. We talked about the draft picks, the cap space. Just how excited are you for this offseason and where this team is headed? It kind of looks like you're right there to kind of getting close to some of the things and some of the goals that you guys set up when you and Brad came here.
It's very exciting. It's a good time to be a Lion, like I said. But the thing is, you can't rest on 9-8 and like, okay, we're there. No, you got to work to get it there. First of all, I would love to bring a winner there we want to bring a winner for the city of Detroit. I think personally, I played a long time in this league. These are some of the most loyal fans, and they follow the team faithfully. And we feel like there's ownership in this city, and our fans deserve a winner. And
it's a unique place.
Yes.
And if the Lions ever become a consistent winner, I know you haven't been here long, but you can probably understand what that is going to be like, what that parade could potentially be like, just what this atmosphere, and you see it at Ford Field at the end of the season, just what that environment can be. You guys bring a consistent winner here. It'll be fun, won't it?
Well, stay tuned.
I like it. Stay tuned. Ray, appreciate you taking the time. Have a good rest of your week here, and good luck this offseason. It should be fun.
Okay, thank you, man.
Awesome. Appreciate you. Thank you. Back here at Hancock Whitney Stadium for the second day of the Senior Bowl, and I am happy to bring in Connor Rogers. And Connor does a lot of things. He's got his hands in a lot of different stuff, Pro Football Focus, NBC, but we're going to talk some of these prospects. And let's start here at the Senior Bowl. With the Detroit Lions, you look at positions of need, and really when you talk to Brad Holmes and Ray Agnew, the assistant general manager, they say, look, we're about getting good players. We're about getting better at every position. But you look at the numbers, Connor, defensively, obviously this team needed need some more talent, need some more depth. And so talking specifically about the Senior Bowl, maybe who are some guys on that defensive side of the ball that have maybe jumped out to you a little bit the first couple of days and maybe could be fit scheme-wise or just, adding talent to that Detroit defense?
No doubt. I mean, I look at the Detroit defense, and they've done such a good job over recent years of adding talent across the roster, but now it's filling out all three levels. We know we're going to talk about cornerback with this team.
Yeah.
But how about a little team speed in the middle of the defense, too? You look at a guy like Marte Mapu from Sac State who's out here. He's an interesting player because he's kind of built like a bigger safety, 220, 225 pounds, sideline to sideline speed. He has no fear of coming downhill and throwing his shoulder down. He makes plays against the run. How about in the interior of the defensive line, too? A guy that can kick at the 1-tech or the 3-tech, Keanu Benton.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just been unblockable down here, honestly. And you look at what the Lions have built up front, you start to like the edge depth that's built, right? You have Aiden Hutchinson, you have Houston. You like Aleem McNeil in the middle of that defense. Maybe you can get another rotational pass rusher. Will McDonald's down here. He's a lighter guy. He's 235, 240. He's going to play around there. Quickness. He's had some battles with one of the best tackles down here in Mobile, Darnell Wright.
Yeah.
They've been going at it. And you see McDonald's a guy that can win the outside shoulder. So you start to build a rotation of a pass rush. So I think the Lions, there's plenty of players that fit the defense at all three levels here.
And some of the guys that you mentioned there are pretty versatile, too.
Sure.
And I know that's a big thing with Brad. You look at Aiden Hutchinson, right? Can play on the outside, but kicks inside in their NASCAR package, had 3 interceptions, can be able to drop back and play in space. James Houston was a stacked linebacker at Florida, went to Jackson State, was an edge guy. The Lions used him multiple ways. So is that the fun part about the Senior Bowl, too, is just putting these guys in some uncomfortable positions, putting them in and just seeing the scope of maybe how they can help a team in a lot of different areas?
Absolutely. It's one of my favorite things to watch because you could turn on a guy like Benton, right? Benton was somebody that because of his size, he's a 330-pounder.
He was a nose tackle,
in
right?
college,
Wisconsin.
You're sticking him at 0. He's over the center. He's going to play nose. He's going to play shade nose off the shoulder. You look at him down here and you say, he's got pass rush ability as a 3-tech, and you just love that versatility because a guy like that on first and second down, you can stick him right in the middle of the defense. Then you get creative on the passing downs. You don't have to take him off the field. And I think that's something that the Lions value is players that they understand their rotations, but they also love the 3-down ability when teams don't let you sub. So, yeah, this is such a cool event for that where guys that are safety converts or they might be converted on a different spot of the offensive line. You get center snaps, you get tackle snaps. This is a really good event for coaches to put you in uncomfortable situations and see how they react. And these guys have reacted really well day after day.
I'm glad you mentioned him, the kid out of Wisconsin, because he, back then, he has looked really, really good. He was part of my, observations in day one. I thought he had a really good day two, too. So he's kind of followed that up. He's been really, really good. And when we talk about the Detroit defensive line, especially along the interior there, I think they're going to be looking for some help there. They got Aleem McNeil, who they love. We'll see what happens with Isaiah Buggs. He's a free agent, but he's going to come back. But I think that's really kind of where they're probably looking, at least for the most immediate help, right?
Sure, and and you can come down here and you can find the dirty work players, right? It's not the guys that are going to get you 15 sacks every year or the guys that are all the flash. How about look at Byron Young from Alabama? There's 2 Byron Youngs on the same team down here. One's an edge rusher from Tennessee. Maybe he'll fit Detroit too. But I'm looking at the defensive tackle from Alabama. Strong hands. When you go to Alabama, the one thing they're always going to tell you, and you see it on film, is they're coached up with their hand usage, hand placement, the strength that they have from the weight room where they don't get displaced in the run game. And you need bodies in there that can eat on 2 blockers, not 1 blocker. And be able to set the edge, be able to control the run, be able to beat reach blocks, and just get tougher in the middle of the field so teams can't look at you and go, we're going to go north and south. You go, no, we have the bodies in here. They're going to hold up against the run while we have the rushers on the edge, especially a talent like Hutchinson and a talent like Houston. So that's the fun part about the Senior Bowl is everybody falls in love with the stars, but you forget that the day 3 picks that might only be rotational players, they can win you championships when you build out the roster.
You know what I mean? Those James Houston kind of guys, those guys that step in and have 8 sacks and 6 sacks and 8 sacks in 7 games. It changes things and how they can become a core piece, a practice squad player at the beginning of the year to a key component. You mentioned the cornerbacks off the top of this. That's obviously a need for Detroit.
Yes.
Have any guys jumped out at you here at the cornerback spot specifically? We can talk both nickel and outside.
For when I look at a guy like Julius Brents that's, 6'2" and smooth and move and can turn his hips and run down the field, that's someone to me, right? You look at this corner class that is, if you're at the Lions, you're in a dream scenario because what do you need the most? In my opinion, you need corner. What's the best position in this entire draft? In my opinion, corner.
Yeah.
And then when you say best, you go, well, is it blue chip talent at the top? Is it deep? It's everything.
It's everywhere.
There's going to be starters in round 3. There's going to be starters in round 4. I think there's all pro guys that are going to go in the top 10. It's really nice flexibility to have because if you fall in love with a guy and you don't get him because you didn't want to move or he just didn't fall into your lap the way you thought, Well, then you have fallback options. So I look at a guy like Brent's out here who's just a skyscraper of a corner. He can turn and run with the guys that go 4-4, but he can play tough and physical at the line of scrimmage. That's somebody that's jumped out to me. And it's tough you got to find competitive advantages in this class because you have all these underclassmen that are excellent. We did see a guy like Witherspoon pull out of here, but you have all these guys that didn't have the opportunity to come down here. Brent has been able to come down here and show, listen, I can hang with the big dogs.
What about the guys that aren't here? Some of the
Special.
underclassmen guys. Yeah, it seems that way. And you see some of the early mock drafts, and Detroit has the number 6 pick. They've got the number 18 pick. So they've got options. They could package things, move up. If they love a guy, they could take a corner at 6. I think there's going to be some good corners at 18. Do you agree? And
I do.
What do you really like about some of those top guys?
What a place to be. And they're going to win the combine, this corner class, because you have a guy like Devon Witherspoon, to me, that absolutely justifies using a top 10 selection on him. He reminds me of Jair Alexander. He's not somebody that comes in and he's going to be 6'2", but and it's almost like he uses that height. And I think 5'11" is not short, but he uses it with a chip on his shoulder. He loves coming downhill and playing the run. He has the best click and close ability, the ability to plant his foot in the ground and get downhill to break up the pass. He's got the wheels to play the deep ball. He was the leader of that defense. He's the leader everywhere he goes. He has that alpha male mentality that you need that can really turn over the back end of your defense that, hey, this guy's the leader of our secondary for the next 6 years. And it doesn't stop there. You have Christian Gonzalez from Oregon, who's kind of a different mold. He's 6'2". He's going to run in the 4.3s, which is unbelievable at that size. He's going to look really good in the drill work. A little bit more of a, not quiet, but a different personality than Witherspoon. Calm, collected, level-headed, lose a rep, go win 5 reps kind of guy. And that's not even getting into Joey Porter Jr. of the world from Penn State, who's more of an option at 18 in my eyes. He's going to have probably the longest arms we've seen at the combine for a corner. Maybe him and Sauce Gardner are the two guys with that kind of arm length. So you're talking about unique players, and that's not even getting to outside of that. You have Cam Smith, you have Keely Ringo from Georgia, you have Deontay Banks from Maryland. It's a loaded corner class where those 3 guys I mentioned at the top, they're going in the top 15 to 20 picks. But if you miss on them, you're still going to find starters elsewhere.
Yeah, and the line's like Jerry Jacobs, kind of their bulldog type guy that the coaching staff really loves him. I don't think you could give up on Jeff Okudah yet.
I don't
with some
think
of the
so
stuff
either.
that he's played. A little inconsistent at the end of the year, but I thought he played like the number 3 pick for probably the first 10 weeks of the season. So they've got some talent there. I just think they need to build up that depth and build that competition in that room. All right, let's talk about the number 6 pick real quick. Obviously, a ton of options there. Some of those top defensive guys are there. You look at the statistics defensively for Detroit, last in the league on defense. They obviously need to fix that side of the ball. Is that where they're going at number 6? And maybe who are some guys that could fit right there at number 6 and be perfect fits?
I think so. And I start with Witherspoon, not to keep bringing him up, but he's the best corner in this draft, and he absolutely justifies the number 6 pick. If you have a front office that just values length at the corner position, you take Gonzalez. They're both top 10 kind of guys. So if you're dead set at corner and you want the blue chip guy, you want the fancy toy, obviously, and you're not bargain shopping, you'll get that guy at 6 because you're in a great spot. You have 2 first-round picks. You have the power to do so. But when you look at it, the options are endless. Let's not act like 2, and I don't expect this, but what if you want to move up from 6? You call in Arizona in 3 and say, hey, we love Will Anderson. What does it take to go up and get Will Anderson? I'm not ruling options like it. The Lions are going to be aggressive this year because they know they can win right now, and that's an incredible place to be. They have belief in the coaching staff. The roster has turned the corner. The offense is great. Especially with Ben Johnson back, the offense is great. I think you can actually bargain shop for your offensive needs with this draft on day 2 and day 3 on the offense. Use your blue chip assets at the top of this draft.
Defense at 6 and 18, or a package to move up and get an elite guy.
Yeah.
Can they move up? Can they package something enough to get Carter? Is he too good to probably a team want to drop down to not get
so
him?
That's not the issue to me, is that Chicago is the bearer of that number 1 selection. That's how I look at it. Now let's throw a scenario out there for fun. What if Chicago traded with the Colts, at 4, right? And you have quarterback with the Colts at 1, quarterback to the Texans at 2. Then you call Arizona because you want to jump your rival, the Bears. That's how you get Jalen Carter. And these are scenarios when you're doing the draft and you're scouting that you play out in your head that everybody might laugh at in January and February. And then you go to April, and the best GMs get creative, and they do that. So I would not rule out Jalen Carter to the Lions. It's just going to take one domino to fall the right way.
But with everything that you said, with the number 6 pick, the number 18 pick, you've got 2 second-round picks. You were 9 and 8. You've got a really nice roster of young core guys. This is in a franchise that's in a pretty good situation right now, don't you think, Connor?
Incredible. And if you do want to nitpick and get on the offensive side of the ball, listen, we watched them trade T.J. Hawkinson. It's a great tight end class. It's a great and that talent, sure, guys are going to go in the first round. I'm sure Lions fans are used to at 18, maybe seeing a Darnell Washington from Georgia, if Michael Mayer from Notre Dame fell there. But there's options outside of that. You have Dalton Kincaid. You have a lot of different types of players, Luke Musgrave. there's day 2 tight ends where, hey, if you do, you got to make the offensive staff happy once in a while, right?
Well, running back too. Jamal Williams is headed toward free agency. Justin Jackson's going to be an unrestricted free agent. DeAndre Swift's entering the last year of his rookie deal.
This is a great class.
So, yeah, can they find a good fit there at running back too?
The Lions needs really aligned because I don't love this draft class as a whole. There's questions whether it's at quarterback. There's questions on the depth of maybe the edge talent and the interior defensive line talent and safety and linebacker. But running back, tight ends, it seems like in corner, those are the 3 big spots right now. And tackle, which isn't a problem for the Lions at the moment right now. So when you look at running back, it's just a deep group. You don't have to take the Bijan Robinson at 18. You don't need to do things like that. You have a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs that's probably a second-round player from Alabama, a Dalvin Cook kind of player. And then you can look at the Senior Bowl right here and find guys. Look at Roschon Johnson. He was Bijan Robinson's backup at Texas. He weighs 225 pounds. He's a north and south bruiser. Dan Campbell's looking at it and going, we need a guy that can close out games, right? We need somebody that can really wear down the defense in the second half. Roschon Johnson can pass protect. It sounds like a little like Jamal Williams right now, right? The way I'm describing him. And there's a little bit of that in his game. So this running back class is very, very deep.
And talking about Roschon, too bad he had the hand, injury. Wasn't able to complete the Senior Bowl, but he probably starts for a lot of teams in college. He averaged 6.0 yards per carry this year. And so a bigger back, like you mentioned, an interesting prospect there. And I think there's a lot of those guys, some of the smaller guys, some of the scat guys that showed some speed down here. I mean, there's a running back for really any scheme.
Yeah, it depends what you need, right? You look at somebody like Charbonnet from UCLA. Zach Charbonnet was a transfer from Michigan. So Lions fans that are also Michigan fans might know him well. He transfers to UCLA. He's a big bruiser, 225 pounds. He can run north and south. He can pass protect like Roschon Johnson, where, hey, we need a bigger back. He's there. If we need a smaller back, there's guys like that as well. So you're just sitting in a really good spot. And, obviously a lot of NFL draft fans know this by now. There's running back talent in every single draft. It's just scattering how they're going to fall and when you have to actually pounce to get your guy.
Yeah. Well, Connor, great stuff. I love the introduction to the draft. It's a fun time, right? Senior Bowl, and you're going to get free agency, and then we're going to be at the,
it goes quick.
Draft comes, and the Lions have obviously a lot of draft capital. They've got a nice young roster, 9-8. They're on the up and up, and so it's a fun time to be a Detroit Lion fan. And thanks for breaking down the draft. Great stuff.
Thank you. It's no problem. And when you cover the NFL draft, you start to root for certain teams that have been a part of your rebuilding content for so long. And it's great to see the Lions turn the corner where we don't talk about the Lions, hey, they're picking top 2, top 5, whatever it is. Now it's how do the Lions get the right pieces to be a serious playoff contender, and it's a great place to be.
Awesome. Well said. We are finishing up the Twentyman in the Huddle podcast presented by Microsoft here in Mobile, Alabama at the Senior Bowl with some guys that impressed.
Yes, sir.
I am Tim Twentyman. He is PJ Clark, and he's just been a busy week down here in Mobile. I love the Senior Bowl just because really it's the last chance for all these execs, for all these coaches to see these prospects, at least the senior prospects, actually playing football. If guys didn't get a chance to, see a prospect throughout the year, now you get a chance these 3 days here in Mobile to see them actually doing football stuff. They're not running 40-yard dashes in tights. It's football stuff.
And it's an important thing. I mean, we have a couple of small school guys on your list that playing in the MAC or playing in G5 or even, North Dakota State, an FCS school, and you're coming up to play, with the big boys here. And it's an important thing. We saw it with Christian Watson last year, made a big impact here, and then went number 34 overall. So it's a big week for draft stock.
And it's also a big week for these guys to show off some versatility, too. I mean, you look at the offensive, defensive linemen especially. I mean, guys that are tackles, they're putting them at guard. They're putting guards at centers, left guard, right guard, center. And so I think teams get an idea of some of the players' versatility. And so that's one of the benefits, I think, of this week as well. But let's cap off the week right now, Peach, with some guys that maybe stood out. And I'll let you open up maybe. We're going to go through maybe about 10, 11, 12 guys real quick, like just some guys that impress, some guys to keep an eye out for come draft time. But maybe what's one big one for you that stood out over the 3 days of practice?
If you were following Twitter at all on the first day of practice, I think DeJuan Jones, the offensive tackle from Ohio State, the biggest guy here was the story. He's got the longest wingspan in the history of the Senior Bowl.
Was it 89 and a half?
Yeah, I mean, this guy, he was just taking everybody's lunch in one-on-ones. Every edge rusher they put up against him had no chance. It was really impressive. Got hurt, did not practice for day 2. Is still expected to play in the game, trying to work through it. But, man, what an imposing force at tackle.
He was, and the one-on-ones, I think especially, and they did, the offensive line, defensive line run drills first, and then they did the pass rush drills, and obviously all the scouts and everybody just gravitates to the O-line.
That's the show.
Pass
That's why you're here.
It is the show. And those run drills, especially with Jones, I mean, I thought it was really impressive. Foskey, the kid from Notre Dame, one of the better pass rushers here. I think that first rep, he drove him 5 yards down the field in the run game.
Andre Carter, too, another guy that was a top 10 pick projected coming into the year, just absolutely beat him.
I think that's where he really showed his worth. And, I think when he got his hands on guys, they really didn't get off him, and because of that wingspan, because of that size. And I thought he showed a little bit of nimble feet for a guy that big, too. I thought he really helped himself down here. Another guy for me that I thought was really, really good was Keanu Benton, the defensive tackle from Wisconsin. I thought he was a handful all week. Played the 3-tech down here, but he was really a nose tackle in Wisconsin's scheme. And we know from Ali McNeil, you're facing so many double teams at that nose tackle spot. It's hard to get the production that maybe jumps off the screen, but they moved him out to 3-tech down here, and I thought he had a terrific week.
Yeah, he was unblockable, especially in the team. I mean, in the team run fits, he blew up a couple of plays in a row on the first day and was really impressive. The interior offensive line for that team on the first day especially did not have a great day. They were still working out the kinks a little bit, but that interior defensive line headlined by Benton just took advantage.
Yeah, and another guy for me, sticking with the interior there, is Carl Brooks. You talked about the small school guys.
How about those two guys on the same team racking up the middle?
Carl Brooks from Bowling Green. And I think he's a really interesting prospect because he's 300 pounds. He played defensive end for Bowling Green. I think
he was rushing out of 2-point stance. This was like Aiden Hutchinson stuff.
18 tackles for loss. I think he had over 10 sacks from the defensive end. He played the interior his first couple years, getting real time at Bowling Green. So again, that versatility, right? You're talking about defensive tackle who was able to play defensive end. He shifted and played more defensive tackle down here. And I think there was a sequence where he won 2 one-on-one reps right in a row against some good competition inside. And then during the team drill, just blew up 2 plays right in a row. I mean, it was like a 4-play sequence of like 5 minutes where he was the guy in the middle. I thought he really helped himself this week.
Yeah, I was really impressed with, moving from, compiling all those numbers and all those tackles for loss on the outside. And then, okay, you're 300 pounds. Like, you're playing inside now. We got to figure this out. And he showed up against, Power 5, higher competition this week coming from Bowling Green. You didn't really know, okay, you lead the MAC in sacks. Let's see it against guys from the Big Ten, and he was really impressive.
300 pounds that could play inside, and you can shift him on the edge, and he's got nimble enough feet to do this. That's pretty dangerous. I think that's a kid that really, really helped himself this week. Who else jumped out for you?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, let's stay local. Bowling Green, kind of close to Detroit. Michigan State, certainly close to Detroit. Jaden Reed was the best wide receiver here.
He was. He really helped himself. He was the fastest wide receiver here. They instituted the zebra technology, which obviously you guys know. They do that. Every team has that zebra technology, the little sensors in the shoulder pads that measure how fast you're going, how many yards you've gone.
It's play speed.
Yeah,
it's real
really
speed.
Is. And he measured over 20 miles per hour.
Only guy
to measure over 20. And I thought on Wednesday specifically in one-on-ones, I think that he had 3 deep balls where he gained separation, had easy touchdowns. He went to the team drills. They played in the slot and outside. Again, that versatility that we talk about. And I thought he would. I agree. I thought he was the best wide receiver down here. And it was a pretty diverse, pretty good skill set of wide receivers. But I think he showed up the most.
I think. I mean, what impressed me the most was his footwork. Just running, especially on the intermediate routes. He had a couple fancy little in-breaking routes that the corner he was going up against had absolutely no chance. And you top that off with 20-mile-an-hour speed, which is a rare thing. A guy like J-Mo's at 22, so you're just a couple ticks under that. And you're the fastest guy here. You get open, you got a chance to impress.
Also returned punts down here. So, again, showed off that versatility of a guy that can do a lot of different things. Play in the slot, play outside, return punts. The more you can do, the better, right?
Absolutely.
All right, let's stick with the skill positions. I think it's a really, really good class of running backs overall. The underclassmen who are obviously, Bijan Robinson's going to be probably the top guy out of Texas. But I think the senior guys here, it was a really good group. I think overall this is a terrific group of running backs. You're going to get guys I think all the way into late day 2 that could probably step in and be starters for teams. We'll see where the need is with Detroit. Jamal Williams, Justin Jackson obviously headed toward unrestricted free agency. DeAndre Swift's heading into the last year of his rookie contract. So I think it is a sneaky need. But, one of the guys that I think stuck out the most to me is Tajay Spears out of Tulane. You look what he did in that bowl game against USC, right? Had 205 yards, really prompted that Tulane upset. And over the year, it was 1,600 total yards. I thought he showed explosiveness down here. I thought he showed a really good ability to catch the ball. And I think one of the things, I talked to him on Tuesday, and he said, one of the things I really got to show, being a little bit undersized, 5'9", 200 pounds, good, but with the height, is can he hold up as a protector? And I thought he really did well in the drills Tuesday and Wednesday against the linebackers holding up. Then he was really good in the one-on-one pass stuff and the 7-on-7s. And then you got to the team stuff on Wednesday. He blew a 70-yard touchdown right down the middle, showed off the speed. I thought he showed a complete game. I think he proved down here that he's a 3-down back.
Explosive runs. And it's hard to be a 3-down back at 5'9", and especially with the draft capital where he might go, you're looking at that guy in a committee. But imagine that guy's your 2, and you just have a home run hitter like that. Yeah. And he showed it yesterday on one of the final plays of practice in team period. He broke that 70-yard touchdown, and he held up in protection. And I was really, really impressed for another, Tulane was very good this year, but a G5 guy doing against Power 5 competition here.
All right, another sneaky maybe need for the Lions, linebacker. Alex Anzalone is headed toward unrestricted free agency. I got the sense talking to him after the season that he's maybe looking for a longer-term deal. He signed 2 one-year deals here. We'll see, where Brad and Ray and those guys stand on bringing him back. You've got Derek Barnes, obviously Malcolm Rodriguez, but I think you could look to add to that group. And of the guys down here, I thought Dayon Henley out of Washington State was a guy that kind of caught my eye. And really, PJ, was more for the stuff that he did in pass pro. That was really...
I mean, he had 4 one-on-one reps in a row with a pass breakup.
And the ability to kind of turn his hips and run. He was one-on-one with Chase Brown, one of the better running backs here,
Absolutely.
Big play guy. They were one-on-one in drills, and he kind of just flipped his hips. Brown tried to run a wheel route, flipped his hips, ran step for step with him. And the way this league is now, obviously a passing league, teams are looking for these linebackers, these third down guys that can, the Chris Board, he kind of played that role for Detroit this year. A guy also headed toward free agency, but a guy that you can put in on third down and you can say, hey, he can cover tight ends, he can cover running backs. I think that's a big need teams are looking for. And I think he showed down here that he's one of the better linebackers, at least of the group down here that can cover guys.
Absolutely. And I think, he's got the makings of a 3-down player to me. You look at what he did this year, Washington State, over 100 tackles. He's got the coverage ability. He showed it off against Spears and Brown and all the good running backs on that team down here. And, he was the one in the middle of the huddle getting everybody fired up. Yeah. And that team especially, they were fired up on defense during practice on Wednesday.
They had fun on defense.
He was the one kind of rallying the troops, and that is just, that's a little thing that you get from being at practice down here, and the scouts, I'm sure, are taking a look at that as well.
All right, as a leader. Who's on your list?
I mean, Keon White from Georgia Tech, the edge rusher. I think that guy he might be the best player here, especially after this week.
I think he might have cemented himself. We'll see what he does at the combine and the testing, but I think there's a guy that maybe was a fringe first, second round guy. I think he really helped himself into the mid to late part of the first round. I think
you look at what Jermaine Johnson did last year, and he went 26th, but he was a fringe first round guy, and then he was in the top 10 of everybody's boards by the end of this week. And I think Keon White is going to have a similar rise, and we'll see where he ends up in the draft. But man, especially in the run game, to me, you see what he could do as a pass rusher with his crazy stats at Georgia Tech, but the run game this week was really impressive.
How many sacks do you think he has if they can actually hit the quarterbacks this week? Because, it is. They wear the red jerseys, right? And you have to, hold up at the quarterbacks. But I think there were a ton of times where he had got there, had the hold up. He was disruptive all week in both aspects of the game. All right, 2 guys for me. Again, sneaky potential needs for Detroit. Right guard. That, we'll see what happens with Big V. Obviously missed all of last year. He is under contract, but backs can be finicky injuries. You never know. And then Evan Brown is headed toward unrestricted free agency, so there could be a little bit of need there. Osiris Torrance out of Florida. I think he's the best guard in this draft. I thought he had a really solid week all week long, really showed off an ability to anchor, especially in the run game. And look, played right guard, played left guard down here. Again, that versatility that we talked about, was even snapping some a little bit. Didn't do it actually in team rest, but off to the side. And teams wanted to see that part of it from him too. I thought he was really, really good.
I give Osiris Torrance a lot of credit because he is pretty much the consensus top guard, and he didn't have to come here. He had already cemented himself, and people really liked what he did this season at Florida. But he came, and I think he did exactly what he needed to do. He didn't screw anything up. He was just steady Eddie, good, and transitioning. Keon White and Osiris Torrance to me are the two first-round picks out of this group if I had to bet right now.
And speaking of Torrance, I got a chance to talk to him on Wednesday, and it was interesting. When he was at Florida, his offensive line coach used to watch him, and the offensive line coach used to watch film. And one of the guys that they really keyed in on was Oregon's Penn Sewell. And you say, well, Penn played tackle, Torrance is a guard. But I thought it was a unique perspective from those two, because they were similar size, because they were similar athletic skill sets. They would look at his hands, talking about Sewell, and his feet and how technical he was, and try to take some of that stuff into his game. I thought it was kind of an interesting perspective there. And I asked him, well, what would it be like then? You're a freshman, sophomore watching Sewell at Oregon, to be able to line up right next to that guy.
Right next to him.
He got a huge smile on his face. And then he said, well, Frank Ragnow's a Pro Bowler too, right? Be able to sit right in the middle of two Pro Bowlers to start your career, not a bad little spot. And look, Detroit's got 5 picks in the top 81. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that you look at a guy like Torrance to be second round pick. I don't think you pull the trigger there at 18. I think
18's it's early, but it's a
early.
good spot.
It's not a bad spot.
If you look at where the guards went in the last couple of years, that mid-teens is really where they've been going. Kenyon Green went 17th last year, so that's a similar kind of prospect. And 18 might be the spot if you're looking at Osiris Torrance for the Lions.
All right, another maybe sneaky position of need. Team traded T.J. Hawkinson at the trade deadline. Luke Musgrave, a guy that I thought was, had a pretty good week here. I think we can all agree that Michael Mayer is the top tight end from Notre Dame, but I think there's a group of guys that were all competing to be that second guy. And I thought
there's
Luke
a
Musgrave,
ton of second-round tight ends this year that are all going to be good players.
had a pretty good week down here, especially on Wednesday when they were running a drill where they were on their side. It was kind of a 2-minute period. They were on their side of the 50-yard line. They had 35 seconds left on the clock, needed a touchdown, and Musgrave made a big play down the right sideline, then made a key catch over the middle. And when you're a quarterback, you're looking for those kind of friendly guys, right? Those
tight end, safety valve, quarterback's best friend.
Safety valves, those big catch radiuses, and look, he's 6'5", 250, right? Big target. I thought he was a guy that I thought helped himself this week as well.
I really liked how fluid he was, especially running on the first day of practice. They had him in one-on-ones against the linebackers and safeties. They were running deep posts to the tight ends, and I really liked how just his hips moved and getting in the middle of the field. And that's where you're making your money. You watch Travis Kelce in the playoffs. It's over the middle of the field, and what can you do after the catch with that? And I thought, depth of target, those 10, 15 yards, middle of the field, Musgrave really impressed me this week.
And I think that'll be an interesting one this year for Ben Johnson, this offense, just because, they traded T.J. Hawkinson, but still got
so much
ton
success.
of production.
Yeah.
12 touchdowns from the tight end position, only 3 of those from T.J. Hawkinson. Guys like Brock Wright and Shane Zylstra are really, really productive. So do you need to, get a guy that you think is the number one, or can you get, can you kind of go with what you have and the success because of the other pieces that you have? Maybe teams forgot about the tight end position a little bit, and Ben Johnson's very creative with that position and how he uses it. So I think that'll be interesting. Do you spend a day 2 pick on a tight end, or do you maybe wait? Obviously drafted Mitchell last year. I thought he, really came on toward the end of the year. So I think that'll be an interesting one, but I think Musgrave is definitely in the mix there in terms of that second group of tight ends that are off the board.
If there is a year to draft a day 2 tight end, this is the right one.
Yeah.
At least in recent
class.
memory.
Yeah. All right, you've got a couple sleepers here.
Well, we got one more guy on your top 10 list, Caillou Blue-Kelly.
Yes.
Stanford DB. I mean, we're going to talk about it for the rest of the offseason. The Lions have a need at cornerback.
They do.
He was the best one here.
He was. But it is a really, really strong class of underclassmen.
And I think senior Devon Witherspoon, who's maybe the best corner in this class, pulled out because he didn't need to be here as a top 10 pick, and but you got Christian Gonzalez and Joey Porter, and there's underclassmen too. But Caillou Blue-Kelly, at least of the Senior Bowl group, stood out.
Yeah, especially on Wednesday, had that great play along the right sideline.
He had a couple pass breakups too.
He had a couple pass breakups. He basically just went and snatched the ball out of the wide receiver's hand along the sideline. Returned it 40 yards for a touchdown. It was the last play of the team period. That defensive unit that we talked about.
Nuts.
They all swarmed him in the end zone. He had a good day. I thought he helped himself.
Yeah, I was really, really impressed with him. That's another long, 6'2" body type that the Lions could look at. And
he's got some Lions ties too.
Yeah. Father played for the Lions, and what do you they have to decide, what are you looking for a quarterback? Is it going to be an early round pick? And it's certainly, the board is probably going to suit you at either 6 or 18. But if you're looking at day 2 or even day 3, it's a really deep classic corner.
Don't be surprised if they add more than one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, obviously Jeff Okudah, they love Jerry Jacobs, but I thought Will Harris came on a little stronger at the end, but I think they're going to certainly look to add competition to that cornerback group. Don't be surprised at all if they get a free agent. I wouldn't be surprised if they draft too. I think they really want to improve the depth and the competition in that cornerback room.
Yep.
All right, who are your sleepers?
All right, my sleeper. You're gonna make fun of me, and it's not.
I would never.
It's not a need for the Lions.
Never.
No, you never. It's not a lead for the Lions. But
I'm anticipating this now.
Bryce Behringer, the punter from Michigan State.
A punter?
Punter from Michigan State.
You were watching the punters.
Oh,
huh?
I was watching the punters.
I'm telling Jack Fox.
I was watching the punters, and he's got a boot. And I know it's not a need for the Lions, but I couldn't not shout him out after the week he had. 75 yards, first punt on Tuesday. I mean, really impressive stuff.
It was impressive.
Really impressive stuff. And I know that's not.
I will say, I maybe might have went to my computer and did some work when the special teams period.
This guy doesn't want the special teams.
Kudos to you for watching the
football
punters.
Guy.
Look at you.
Special teams, Dave Phipp, I got you. And the other guy for me, Evan Hull, another running back from Northwestern.
Yeah, he was good.
He was really good, and his tape is really interesting. Northwestern was not great this year, but he was their entire offense. And they have, a top 10 pick in Peter Skoronski at left tackle and him at running back. And those two guys were the offense. And what he was able to do on a bad Northwestern team, put up the numbers that he did, and then I think really impressed. I liked his vision, hit holes really hard today, broke a couple, runs in practice, and I was really impressed with him.
Trivia with Twentyman. Who's his agent?
It happens to be a Lions legend.
A Lions legend?
A Lions legend.
Zach Zenner is his agent. Zach Zenner's gotten into the agent game. He's also an agent, nutritionist, lawyer. He's kind of gone that route. He's got a couple guys down here that did pretty well.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys. I like that. He was a guy that stood out to it. He just missed my top 10 list. He was a guy that definitely stood out.
Got to show some love.
Got to show some love. Well, that'll do it from the Senior Bowl here for the 20 in the Huddle podcast. But you know what? You want to go to Arizona?
Yeah.
You just at the Super Bowl?
I mean, we may as well.
All right. So guess what? We're going to be back next week from Arizona. We got a spot on Radio Row. We're going to try to get a bunch of Lions players. We're going to try to get a bunch of national personalities. Maybe Dan Orlovsky might stop by.
That's a tease.
Barry Sanders. We might get some guys down there. So hope you enjoyed the Senior Bowl coverage from the 20 in the Huddle podcast. We will be down in Arizona next week. We'll have much more for you down there. Thank you guys for joining.